You made me walk up here late.
Well, we're supposed to start in 3 minutes. See, get this all set up. Walk back down.
Up to you. Okay.
Huh?
Should bring some chairs up here.
The good news is after we can grab the laptop and just sit down. I'm not sure how the second that smaller one. And everything I was watching yesterday had
On. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
and then here. Man, I need some water.
He was also on the phone. Yeah. It's making me kind of nervous.
Oh, that he's
Yeah. Green means going right.
Yeah. And don't point the lane at late. Don't go on. I thought you were gonna do it. I was like, Jesus.
You don't need the laser, right?
No. It's a little funny right now. I know.
Come on, 9:45. All right, you want me to start?
Yeah.
All right, guys, it's 9:45. We're going to go ahead and get this session started.
My name is Darren Kupel, and I am the Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians Environmental Director.
And I'm Samantha Sproul, and I do the environmental outreach for Shingle Springs.
We're going to give you guys an overview of how we hold our cleanup events. Just a little background on the tribe. The Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians is in El Dorado County.
Not working. There it goes.
We have approximately 540 tribal members, and 140 of those live on the Rancheria. We have one option for solid waste, and this is through El Dorado Disposal, and they have a transfer station that offers residential cart services, debris boxes, and commercial dumpsters.
So our current solid waste services, so tribal members on the Rancheria, they currently are provided a 96-gallon trash cart, a recycle cart, and a green waste cart. That's scheduled for pickup once a week. So that's what El Dorado Disposal does for us. And the Rancheria pays for the trash service for the membership on the reservation. Before we had the trash cart service through El Dorado, we just had a 40-yard dumpster that was placed at a central location where everybody just kind of went and threw all their stuff away. So tribal administrator came along and decided they wanted to do carts instead. So the other services that we offer as a department is, oh, thank you. We do hazardous waste pickup by appointment only. We can take appliances, e-waste, household battery, mattresses, microwaves, food waste, compost, medication, ammo, tires.
And steel, whoa, that's loud. We've had some hazardous waste issues in the past. We used to let people drop it off, but we started accumulating way too much, and it was really hard to handle. So now we have tribal members make appointments, and we meet with them, and we'll take their hazardous waste.
So the issues that we had we used to accept all kinds of appliances, and we had an individual that I don't exactly know what he was doing, but we were picking up like 40 appliances a year from him. So after Schnitzer Steel decided they weren't going to take appliance anymore for free, we have to start taking them a dump now and paying. So now we've kind of capped our tribal members and say you get 3 freebies. And then after that, we will come pick up your appliance, but it'll be deducted from your per cap or you're going to have to pay for it.
Our medication disposal program, we work with the tribal health clinic and we take it up there to be disposed of.
And then, of course, any ammo or fireworks goes to our tribal police department.
For the planning of a cleanup day, the first thing is advocate for your tribe. For El Dorado County, they said that we're not part of the county, so we're not eligible for some of the benefits. So we had to fight with them.
Yeah, so we kind of caught him on that. She was getting trash vouchers because she's with El Dorado Service. And I was like, what the hell? We're not getting trash vouchers. We got 56 cards. So I called and argued with them a bit, but they said since they declared us not part of the county, so we weren't eligible for county programs. But we ended up getting our vouchers after a little bit of, yeah.
Also, you need to think about how many times a year you should do a cleanup event. We used to do ours once a year, but we found that wasn't really enough because around Christmas time, people tend to have a lot more waste to dispose of.
Mm-hmm. So we made it now 2 times a year. We do one in February and we do one in July. So you want to contact your local trash provider to inquire what service they will provide. So El Dorado Disposal will give us a recycle bin and a steel bin for just the cost of drop off and pickup, which is I think $125. They won't charge us, for the items that are going into it unless trash goes into it and then it becomes contaminated and then they charge us the full amount.
We have also worked out a deal with them because we do so much business with them that they don't charge us for having the trash bins longer than what we're supposed to.
Yeah, so theoretically, if you got a dumpster through them, you can keep the dumpster for 7 days without the additional $5.26 charge. So they waived that for us. So you're going to want to decide what services you'll be able to offer at your cleanup event. And this really kind of goes to where you're going to offload your items and your manpower and your space.
You also want to work with your finance department and probably your project officer if you're planning far enough ahead to plan how you're going to pay for the disposal of everything.
So, and then choose a location that will provide enough space and is easily accessible, because if you are going to have a bunch of dumpsters in there, they take quite a bit of space. You're going to want enough room for cars to go through or pieces of equipment to get in between to, smash everything down, get your money's worth.
Something else we also learned after our 4th time is you really need to plan your layout correctly. The dumpsters have doors on one side. So if you want a smooth drop-off area, you want to make sure all your doors are facing the same way.
And you want to create guidance on how participants should handle their solid waste and what items are allowable in each dumpster. This is really hard for us in a sense, unless we're not up there, with them 24/7 on what goes in what. So we've now created signs that kind of tell them what can go where, and that's still, we still have to kind of go through the dumpster to pull out what doesn't belong there.
We always create a flyer and distribute it usually a month ahead of time so people can start piling up stuff they want to get rid of.
And then, you set up your area with detailed instructions. So we have signs and cones. And then for the items that aren't allowed in the dumpsters, we have areas set up with signs for our appliances, mattresses, tires. So it's just really simple and hopefully self-explanatory.
And then also you want to think about, is it possible to offer extra support to tribal members with additional needs or tribal elders? We have a sign-up program for the day of cleanup day. Our boys will go to the elders' houses, pick up the trash for them, and bring it back to the dumpsters.
So setting up your area, you want to communicate with your solid waste provider when you would like your dumpster to be placed. So this is going back to how far apart you want them, making sure the doors are at the right way, and just how you want it, how you see fit. You want to set up appropriate signs near the dumpsters to help guide your participants. Set up areas for items that are either not allowed in the dumpsters or items that you would like to divert from the waste stream.
Back when we did accept hazardous waste, we would set up tarps so that the hazardous waste wouldn't get spilled onto the ground. And we're thinking about setting up a reclaimed table, because the amount of people we have pull up to the cleanup day and say, hey, this still works, but I'm going to throw it away if anybody wants it. So we're thinking about setting up an area where people can put that stuff and then other people can take it.
And then at the end of the week, when the cleanup event's done, we can just toss it. And then you set up a check-in location. So this is kind of just a few pictures of our setup that we have. So our check-in location, this is kind of fun. So the check-in location allows us to ensure proper disposal of items. So we set up big old pop-up tents, and if we're feeling crazy, we'll get the barbecue out and we'll start barbecuing food, doing breakfast. I make cinnamon rolls. My kids only think cinnamon rolls exist on cleanup day now, because when I'm like, we're doing a cleanup weekend, they're like, oh, we get the cinnamon rolls, huh, Mom? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So, and we also have just some stuff out there for the kids to play with. We have some free prizes for them. But so we'll have people drive up to the check-in location. And what we do is we kind of see what they got, or they'll ask us, hey, I have this, where can this go? And this really helps us, put waste where it needs to be. And this will also help us, tribal elders that are really independent, that want to come up and do it themselves. But we know, hey, we can help you with this.
At the check-in table, we also have sign-in sheets, so we can kind of keep track of how many people will come. We have a sheet to schedule appointments for hazardous waste and car removal.
Yeah, so we'll discuss parcel cleanups with specific tribal members. At this point too, hit them up and say, hey, we've got this going on. Why don't you come up here and we'll help you get, do parcel cleanup.
It also allows us to just interact and answer any solid waste questions and hand out literature.
And then, like I said, the food and the swag bags. So we try at our summer, we try to pick. So we've done, what have we done? Oil kits,
carbon monoxide
meters, trash pickers. We've just done a little thing to give out for the people that participate. But I mean, this check-in location though is more about building a relationship with the tribal members. This helps us recognize their personal needs and what we can do for them. All right, so during your cleanup event, you want to check your dumpsters.
You didn't change it.
Oh, sorry guys. You want to check your dumpsters regularly for unallowable items. This especially happens at night. For some reason, we get a lot of people at night that want to come dump. So they know, they're the ones that help with this. Raise your hand, Benji and DJ. There you go. So
you also want to push the waste to the back of the dumpsters, because if that doesn't happen, your trash can or your dumpsters will fill up unevenly and it just gets really hard at the end.
Yeah, and you want to make sure that those doors are closed when it starts to get filled, because then you can't close them, and that's a problem. So, and if it's possible, you want to compress it with a piece of heavy equipment. I kind of like to wait till the last couple days to do this, because people just continue to throw, and it is over the fill line at that point. But at least with the heavy equipment comes down and smashes it, the provider's happy to pick it up at that point.
And this also goes back to why the placement of your dumpsters is really important. We always call facilities and they have to get a tractor in between to smash down the dumpsters.
And then, of course, you want to ensure everybody's safety during the cleanup event. So we'll be out there kind of directing traffic. It seems like all of them come at once. So just make sure everybody's being safe. So we've got a picture of the girls. They're picking plastic out of the steel bin. We used Riley to
smash
cardboard down. And then one of our interns is directing traffic. And this just go ahead.
Oh, this just shows that we have people showing up in every type of vehicle to dump trash. This is maybe not the safest thing, but we had the kids helping us mix paint.
Well, they were my kids.
They were her kids. It was okay. And we were wearing gloves.
All right. So after your cleanup event, you're going to contact your solid waste provider. Contact your solid waste provider for removal of the dumpsters. So you want to get those ready for removal. And sometimes they can't be picked up right away. And they'll stay like an extra week, which is kind of iffy for us sometimes because people just continue to fill them.
And in these cases, we usually work with tribal police to kind of do drive-bys of the dumpsters because sometimes the kids will start jumping in them or animals will start getting to them, so they help monitor them.
You're going to want to record the number of items collected during the event for your records.
It's really important. We use an Excel sheet to keep track of ours. I know there's other waste tracking software that EPA can probably tell you guys about. And then we like to track really carefully so that we can convey those numbers to the membership because they need to know how much waste we're removing from the res. Last year, Last year, from the 2 cleanup events, we collected and disposed of 140 tires, 12 junk cars, 15 mattresses, 40 pounds of household batteries, 25 appliances, 15,000 pounds of steel, over 125 gallons of hazardous waste, 115 pieces of e-waste, and over 160 cubic yards of solid waste.
Yeah. And then you want to plan to start removing the items from the other items from the area, such as the appliances and the microwaves. That could take up to a week, 2 weeks for us. So you have to keep in mind wherever this location is, you're going to have some waste sitting for a week or two. And then you just want to clean up any leftover debris. And that's
it. Questions?
Morning. That's a great job you guys are doing. Did you guys get a track of all the reusable items that you guys helped kind of deter away from the landfill?
Reusable items? Like what?
Didn't you say you had a reusable like table? For
Oh,
people?
we're thinking about doing that
Oh,
next
okay.
year.
So that's one thing I'm trying to do with my county is work with them and say, hey, we had this cleanup event and we avoided filling up your area by doing the chips, composting, or even reusing items and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we already have us and tribal members pulling stuff out of the trash that we want to keep. So we figure we might as well put a table out for it.
Good morning, Lou Griffin, Wilton Rancheria. Do you guys provide for members that don't live on the Rancheria the same access?
Yes. So if you don't live on the Rancheria, you're more than welcome to bring your trailer and all the use for that. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
On junk cars, do you have to go through the DMV and that type of stuff?
No, so I don't go through the DMV for junk cars. I work with a local tow company, and what we do is when we remove the junk cars, the company will actually put a lien on against the car, and so that pretty much says they're going to send the DMV paperwork to the individual, and if the individual doesn't respond to it, then it's just all good. So that's how we do that. We don't go through the DMV for that.
Okay.
But we do pay like $200 a car because usually we don't have any paperwork or titles or anything like that. Back in the day, we used to get money for cars, and that's really switched up now.
So, I would recommend doing the swap table because we've done that at Paula a couple times, and everyone was super excited, and it went over really well. And then we have a question in the chat asking how you funded it and what you do about manpower.
So we have 4 full-time staff members that show up and work the event, plus our youth intern comes every time. Plus we have a number of kids that'll come out and help us just because. Funding wise, the tribe mostly funds it, but we have worked with our project officer in the past to cover certain aspects of the disposal.
Like tire removal, junk car removal.
And that's from GAP, and we've used 319 funds because some of our waste is near streams.
So, I mean, we just noticed once we started doing this, we don't really have any open dump sites anymore. So it just became it was more, I don't know, I just thought it was more realistic to do this instead of having to go up and clean up open dump sites. So at least we know it's all going in one spot, and we're gonna have to clean the open up dump site up anyways. So with the, luckily council sees that and they allow us a budget. I think we're heading into your time.
Hey, Krishna Sevis here with Soboba. So you guys mentioned that you had an annual cleanup event that you turned into a biannual event. Did you find that the total cost ended up being less or more when you held these two events? I know it's probably the same accumulation of waste just spread out throughout the year. So that's kind of my question. Did you see the cost relatively the same, or how did that work out?
Yeah, I would say it was about the same because when we didn't do it twice a year, sometimes we would just have to bring in extra dumpsters throughout the year to handle the excess trash for the cleanups. So yeah, and then with that one, when we were doing it once a year, we would have to do a switch out of the dumpsters anyways. So by spreading it out to twice a year, it's kind of just keeping the area clean throughout the year.
It keeps it manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hello? Is it on? Okay.
No, it's not.
With your dumpsters and stuff, we did that too, but we did have that problem of overfilling overnight. But I wasn't here for the beginning, but how far is your transfer or the dump from you guys? If you guys thought about having individuals giving them vouchers to go to the landfill themselves.
The dump is probably 10 miles up the road.
We have too much trash for one voucher.
Yeah. We do give every resident a voucher also to go to the dump throughout the
Yeah.
year, but we have certain residences that will bring 6 truckloads at a cleanup event.
Mhm. And our transfer station, they're not the easiest to work with.
Hi, Middletown Rancheria. My name is Luiseño Rivera. You mentioned that you do food waste and compost. So how did you educate your people, and how is it going for you? How do you store that stuff?
So we went ahead and we have a compost program in our garden set up, and we have compost pails that we've handed out to certain individuals that want to participate. And we give them the guidelines on that and what needs to go in there. And then we pick up weekly from them, and we would dump it in our compost pile and then return the bin.
It is a slow process.
It is a very
though,
slow
getting
process.
participation. And also, El Dorado County, I don't know if that's a statewide thing or a county thing, but El Dorado County is doing a food waste program. So they allow you to put food waste into your green waste carts, and they collect it with the green waste.
And their food waste that they're collecting, it's everything.
Yeah,
Like
it's
meat,
a lot more.
everything. Does that answer your question, or? Okay. Oh, there's so many questions. No, but
Oh, there's one more question.
okay.
What do you guys do about your cardboard boxes?
Cardboard.
Yes.
So we do get a recycle dumpster at the cleanup for cardboard, but we have recycle dumpsters commercial through the administration lot already. So we just kind of, if somebody has some extra cardboard laying around, we'll just kind of go fill up a recycle dumpster for them. They'll call us up. Like right now, when I have an elder that called us while we're out here, and she says, I got cardboard. So we'll go pick up her cardboard and we'll go put it in one of the recycling bins on the res. We tried to get a cardboard baler through a grant. Didn't seem to work out for us.
The cardboard bin that we have at the cleanup day is what, a 20-yard?
Yeah,
It's a 20-yard dumpster, and it fills up pretty much every time. So people do have a lot of cardboard. So it was worth it for us to have a designated cardboard bin.
Okay,
All right.
cool.
Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Aceves. I am the Environmental Director with Soboba Band of Luiseño Indians. It's a pleasure to be here in front of you all today. I will be discussing Soboba's experience this past year with the EPA Hazardous Waste Management Grant Program. I'll be discussing our successes, our shortcomings, and everything in between. So please join me. So a little bit of background about the Soboba Reservation. It is located in the foothills of the San Jacinto Mountains in San Jacinto, California, predominantly Riverside County. The reservation does span approximately 8,000 acres of land. Over the last decade, the tribe has seen a significant growth in population of about 37%, currently sitting at about 1,600 members of active tribal members, of which 600 reside on the Soboba Reservation. Now, the increasing population has definitely had an effect on the current and accumulation of hazardous waste on the reservation. Unfortunately, the tribe currently does not have a permanent transfer station or hazardous waste collection and disposal area. So with limited avenues to dispose of hazardous waste materials, items are more than often limited or disposed of with normal household waste or unfortunately illegally dumped on the reservation. The tribe and the environmental department has definitely observed an increased trend of improper hazardous waste disposal. So there definitely is a need to incorporate hazardous waste management into our overall waste management program. Now, in efforts to combat improper hazardous waste disposal, Soboba does host an annual community cleanup event. Much like what we just heard now, we do offer 40-yard bins and an opportunity for tribal members to dispose of bulk solid waste and hazardous waste items as a part of a reservation-wide reduction program. Now, while this annual event does provide some relief, it is only a one-time event throughout the year, so it does limit the ability for tribal members to properly dispose of waste. So we are considering opening it up to a biannual event or something like that. So with that being said, Soboba definitely had a need to incorporate hazardous waste management into our current program, and thus that leads us into going after the EPA Hazardous Waste Management Program. Now, this program is a tribal program that's designed to provide technical and financial assistance to tribal governments and tribal consortia to develop and implement hazardous waste programs, build capacity to improve and maintain regulatory compliance, and develop solutions to address improper management of hazardous waste on tribal lands. So being that this is a tribal grant program, eligible applicants are intertribal governments, intertribal consortium, or consortia. This award goes up to $100,000 with no matching requirement. An additional thing to note is this is eligible to be included within a PPG, so you're able to really be flexible and utilize these funds along your different grant programs. So that's definitely something to consider when pursuing this grant. So here, we're going to just continue with the waste management program. Eligible activities are listed here. You can develop and implement codes, ordinances, and policies to regulate hazardous waste management activities and improper disposal methods. So for instance, we were able to develop a ordinance that limits illegal dumping so that we can enforce that issue. So that's one eligible activity you can do under this grant. Another is to develop and implement tribal integrated hazardous waste management plans. This would include source reduction, recycling programs, so those are definitely things you want to consider when applying for this grant. Another is to implement a used oil collection or other programs to reduce the improper management of hazardous waste within the community. So a great example of this would be purchasing a 400-gallon drum container, placing it somewhere in the community that's accessible to tribal members where they can go and dump used oil, opposed to it going down the drain, down the driveway, or just in their backyard, right? So that's something to consider. And of course, one of the most common one is to implement, waste collection events or programs that provide sustainable or long-term solutions for disposal of all types of waste. So these are really the eligible activities that you can do under this grant. The primary contacts for this grant is Denise Roy and Deirdre Nuri. Deirdre is here with us today. She is my project officer on this grant, and we've worked very closely to draw down these funds and implement these activities. So if you're interested, speak with her afterwards. I'll be more than happy to answer questions as well. And of course, if anyone has any questions throughout this presentation, just feel free to ask away. So kind of just to give an insight into Soboba's waste management plan, we have a kind of a timeline of what we've done, where we are, and where we want to be. So in 2020, we did identify, Soboba did identify the need to pursue hazardous waste funding. So we began drafting the application for the EPA Hazardous Waste Management Grant in 2020, late 2020. 2021, it was submitted with the EPA, and in 2022, early 22, we received notice of the award of about $100,000, actually $100,000. And we were able to begin to conduct eligible activities within this grant. So as I mentioned earlier, Soboba currently does not have a permanent transfer station facility or a hazardous waste disposal area. So we do plan to leverage other funding to construct a transfer station of about 100 tons per day. We are not generating that much waste yet, but we do plan to think about the future enterprises, the increase of population on the reservation. So we do plan to integrate something like that. So we aim to break ground on construction, hopefully in 2023, once we're able to obtain all the funding. And in late 2024, early 2025, we aim to have a portion of the transportation operational up and running for our tribal members. They'll be able to bring waste of solid waste, recycled, hazardous waste, all types of waste to this transfer station to be stored and disposed of in a proper manner. So that transfer station will be in-house on the reservation to provide additional avenues for tribal members to dispose of their waste. So now we can get into some of the activities that we wrote in our proposal when obtaining this grant. So as mentioned, we plan to design a hazardous waste area by purchasing equipment that will form the basis for a permanent transfer station. So, within our transfer station, we aim to have a specific hazardous waste area designated for only hazardous waste. So with this grant, you can purchase equipment such as PPE, containment spill pallets, storage cabinets, anti-flammable cylinder shape, a 400-gallon drum that I mentioned earlier. You can purchase recycling containers for fluorescent bulbs, battery recycling containers, and of course, emergency response kits. So when going after this grant, if you're in the need of equipment, this is definitely something that will be eligible. And of course, I will be able to share this presentation with you all. Anyone who's interested, just again, feel free to reach out to me. Another grant activity that we were able to implement was the hosting hazardous waste collection events throughout the year. Now, as mentioned earlier, Soboba Tribal Admin did fund an annual collection event, but it was still insufficient for all the waste that we had on the reservation. So under this grant, we were able to host quarterly specific household hazardous waste collection events. Now, these events were held for the Soboba tribal community. And to add, we were actually able to extend the opportunity to neighboring tribes. So we invited them to bring some of their household hazardous waste that they had accumulated on their reservation at no cost to these tribes. So it's always great when you're able to work alongside neighboring tribes and help not only help your reservation, but help other reservations, and then give them more technical assistance when it comes to them pursuing these opportunities. Of these 3 events that we did host this year, we were able to successfully collect and dispose of 10,520 pounds of hazardous waste. This was successfully collected and disposed of, thus ensuring that they did not damage the reservation's natural resources. So it's really great to be able to track this type of data and waste. Now, it's important to note that we do utilize a third-party hauling company to haul all the waste and dispose of the waste for us. Now, when you do this, you want to document all types of proper disposal, obtain manifests of the waste that is being transported for your own records and for regulatory records. This ensures that you take a cradle to the grave aspect when approaching these types of collection events, so see it from beginning to end. So that's definitely something that I want to stress obtaining that documentation, that information for your records and for the EPA records is very crucial. Here we have photos of our different collection events that we had. This is our first ferry collection event within the first few hours of hosting it. So you can see we had a good little accumulation. We were able to get it, properly sort it. And this was before we were even able to have much of the equipment we have now. So you can see some oil drums, car batteries, propane tanks, used paint, different types of car coolants and whatnot, e-waste, tires, you name it, we had it, right? So this was a really good event for us to be able to collect this type of waste and make sure it went off the reservation and didn't end up somewhere in our watershed area or in our waterways. So here you can see kind of the packaging that we do, store it, and then our waste hauling company does come out and successfully take it off the reservation for us. Additionally, it's important to incorporate the tribal youth in these collection events. You know, they are going to be the future generation of the reservation. So including them in these events, you're ensuring a good mindset for the future generation of the reservation, right? It's always good to incorporate the tribal youth because they can be on the ground learning right then and there, seeing the damage, the potential of what can happen when these wastes aren't disposed of properly. So here, this is our third collection event. We were able to partner with the summer youth program, and they were able to come out and participate in these events. And again, it's very rewarding when you kind of are discussing with tribal youth. You see that brain click on, the flicker, they understand, wow, this is impactful. This is something that I can change myself. Maybe next time I'll consider not throwing away my hot Cheetos on the floor or, dumping stuff down the drain to get at mom or something. So this is always a good opportunity when you have these collection events to include the tribal community and specifically targeting the tribal youth. So another activity that we aim to do is is developing educational material for the tribal community. So this helps increase hazardous waste awareness among Soboba tribal members and other tribal communities that are looking to implement the same thing. So through the development and distribution of educational and outreach materials, we can then have a collection to provide at different events, not only events that are related to the environment, but community events where we have tabling opportunities to provide these brochures, flyers, hard copies to elders that are interested in having them. Additionally, we want to expand our outreach capabilities by moving to a virtual platform, right? As mentioned earlier, we want to target the tribal youth, and all of them are now virtual, so they have their virtual platforms. So having a social media outlet such as an Instagram, a Facebook, or even a tribal website where you can post these at, having QR codes where they can scan them and see these educational materials is important because you're able to expand your outreach capabilities and thus ensure you're getting a larger audience when you do conduct these educational materials. And of course, being tribal staff and environmentalists, we understand we don't know everything and we never will, but we can seek to obtain as much knowledge as possible. So under this grant, you're also able to obtain travel and training funds to go and seek to expand your knowledge in hazardous waste management. So that's also something that you can write up in your proposals when going after these programs. So these types of trainings include EPA-led trainings. You can obtain a HAZWOP or 40-hour certificate, do a refresher course. I know some of them host in-person hazardous waste or HAZWOP trainings, so those are always good to know and have your certificate so that you can be on the ground during these collection events and, facilitate and oversee the storage and the sorting of this types of hazardous waste in a safe environment, And of course, online webinars and online resources are always very useful as well. So feel free to go after those as well. And of course, with the many successes that we have, we also do have shortcomings as well. But your success is measured by how you deal with these shortcomings. So, while Soboba was able to accomplish a great many things, unfortunately, not everything was completed within the grant year. As mentioned earlier, we weren't able to construct that transfer station due to back orders and inflated construction costs. So it's a little difficult when you're trying to purchase equipment for a facility that's not built yet, so it's really difficult trying to load that up. So that was one of our shortcomings. We weren't able to completely purchase all of the bulkier equipment that we aimed to do to develop a hazardous waste disposal area. But nevertheless, we were able to purchase about 70% of that equipment, that you can store in different facilities for the time being. Additionally, we weren't able to host one of our planned household hazardous waste collection events. This was due to staff turnovers and COVID-19 restrictions. Of course, whenever you're hosting a cleanup event or any community event in general, you want to go ahead and ensure health and safety above all else. You don't want to expose anyone. You don't want to lead anything up to chance. So that was one of the issues we faced in the early time of this grant. Thankfully, we were able to just, put those efforts into the second quarter and really combine those efforts. Additionally, we were able to combine one of these hazardous waste collection events with our annual collection event. So we were able to have a very large event. So we were able to leverage gap funding for our annual cleanup event and then have this grant funding for the hazardous waste management program to combine them together. And then again, this grant program is eligible under a PPG, meaning that if you don't fulfill all your commitments within that grant year, you can always roll it over to the next year, right? Meaning that you can conduct these activities the following year and draw down those funds appropriately in a timely manner. If you weren't in a PPG and it was just a standalone grant, then you would have to request a no cost extension, which is usually pretty straightforward. You just talk to your project officer or your lead and they'll be able to guide you and help you with that. So don't feel you need to complete all these activities within that year. It's always good when you have EPA and project officers that you can lean on. They're very understanding and they're always able to provide tremendous resources and technical assistance to ensure the awarded tribe has as much success as possible. So I just wanted to take time again to thank Deirdre Nuri here, who was my project officer. She made sure she worked very closely with us to ensure the complete success of this grant program. And I just want to thank her so much again. So that is kind of the end for my presentation. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them at this time. Yeah, please.
I just wanted to say that when you said you'll get involved, I think it's really, really important because my kids, of course, are with us all the time, and I've noticed at home now they're picking up, this is hazardous waste or this is recycled. Sometimes they'll argue me on it. They'll be like, I just want to get it cleaned up. Throw that cardboard. No, it doesn't go in there. And so I think, teaching them at a young age, it's a lot easier than
Oh, absolutely. When you incorporate them in these activities, when you provide them with presentations and brochures and flyers that they'll just stick in their backpack and forget about, it's a little different when you incorporate actually engagement activities because they're on the ground learning, taking in all this information. And during our collection events, we do some type of waste characterization to understand the type of waste we do in hopes that they'll in turn take that back home and incorporate that as the way you mentioned, no mom, this doesn't go down the drain, no dad, this doesn't go down the sidewalk, each piece of waste has its place. That's something that we definitely try to spiel all the time. Each piece of waste has its place. So that's definitely something that I agree, definitely. Rob, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to compliment you on your presentation as well as your presentation of it. You did an excellent job. You're achieving a lot of successes. I did want to ask you about the waste oil, the 400-gallon waste oil container that you're considering getting. It sounded like you were talking about putting that out into a community area and allowing people to dump into it. Are you going to be staffing that, or are you just going to leave it there for people to dump in on their own?
Yeah, so you're the gallon drum, right? That's what you mentioned, the oil.
400-gallon
Yeah, the 400, yeah. So we plan to put that in we have a temporary transfer station that is gated and it has video surveillance. So during operational hours, we are able to open the gate and have the gallon drum there. I believe it's between usually like 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So there are hours of operation where they're able to access it. Usually we don't want to leave it just in any given area because that leads improper, disposal of other items that shouldn't be in there. So that is something that we focus on. So it's not just out in a parking lot somewhere in the back. We do have it in a gated area.
Sounds great. I misunderstood what you said because,
No.
yeah, you don't want that waste oil to be contaminated because then it's not waste oil, then it's mixed hazardous waste. And
Absolutely.
your cost of disposal goes way up. But one of the great things about, collecting that waste oil is generally you can have that disposed of either for free or at extremely minimal cost.
Absolutely.
Because that waste oil can be recycled into new oil.
Yeah, that's very true. Opposed to just having, like used oil just in different areas, you can all put it into one collection drum to ensure that it's stored properly. Deirdre.
I just wanted to call out and appreciate 3 different tribes in this room who have successfully competed for this grant. It's kind of hard to get this grant because there's only 3 that are awarded nationally, but La Jolla did an excellent hazardous waste management plan. I would recommend it as a reference tool to anybody who wants to set up a program. It's great. Rincon just successfully competed. They're going to start their project. And then Paula has also received this award at least once. So, there's some good experience in the room.
Yes, Cal.
Yeah, let's go. Any other questions? Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned a temporary transfer station. How big was that and how did you get that?
So we
Great.
still have the temporary transfer station. We haven't been able to construct a permanent transfer station. So essentially our temporary transfer station is just composed of a 4-sided gate that has an open fence area where people can come on into it and dispose of their waste. We usually have 40-yard bins in the area. We're trying to designate an area of that temporary transfer station to collect only household hazardous waste and hazardous waste items. And that comes with the purchase of these equipment. Through this grant, you're able to purchase a wide range of hazardous waste equipment to store and properly have that hazardous waste. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just a 4-sided fence, surveillance footage, and some equipment in there to help manage it. And we don't have enough staff to manage it all the time. So it's either within those hours of operation or upon special requests.
With your security, you said you had cameras?
Yes, it's under surveillance, that area, to ensure that once hazardous waste is in that area and being stored, it's not being, abused. One issue that we did have in the past was fluorescent bulbs. When we didn't have proper recycling containers, we would just kind of put them in like the drum type of compartment where they would hang over the side. And that was to kids, tribal youth that don't know better. That's something that they can go play with and just smash to bits, So that's something that we implemented surveillance to ensure that none of these issues happen in the future. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Oh, anyone? Yes.
Hey there. So in regards to third-party waste hauling, I know sometimes there's the issue of increased pricing for certain items like tires and e-waste.
Mm-hmm.
Does your environmental department do anything like use any foundations or something that make it so those costs are diminished?
Yeah, great question. So while we are able to use a lot of this grant funding to pay for the disposal and hauling of hazardous waste, we also do try to look for other opportunities and leverage other funding. So we were able to collaborate with a Mountains Foundation Conservation Corporation that's able to collect e-waste and tires for free. So we do collect e-waste and tire collection during our events, and they're able to come alongside the additional hauling company and remove of these e-waste and tires at no cost to the tribe. So that ensures that we have additional funding for larger types of hazardous waste that are a little more impactful to natural resources on the reservation. So yeah, excellent question. Always look out for other, opportunities to leverage those fundings and opportunities to enhance your program. Thank you. There was a question in the back, I believe.
I just had a question about the surveillance. When you guys put those up, what do you guys do with the people that you catch not putting the
Yeah,
waste
so great
properly?
question. We try, thankfully, ever since those cameras have been installed and the gates remain closed, we've been able to avoid those situations. But in theory, I would assume that we would implement and enforce our ordinances that we have in place. And essentially, we try not to get too harsh on tribal members as they are, the general community that, we work for. So it's usually just a slap on the wrist, something kind of just informing them, hey, this is wrong, this is a no-no, don't do that. And usually that tends to work. If we have more severe actions and issues, then we are able to implement the ordinance and enforce violations, and they become in bad standing with the tribe and whatnot. So there are actions that we can take, thankfully, due to these implemented ordinances and codes. That kind of acts as a legal protection for you to ensure that tribal members do walk the right path and they aren't straying from that path. So thank you. Excellent question.
Actually,
Please.
I actually have two questions.
Mhm.
One, what was the size of your residential bin?
We would have 40-yard residential bins. So we utilize a CR&R environmental company. We would have them come out. So since we are in a PPG, during our collection events, we're able to leverage funding from different grant programs. So while we try to have these collection events only be for hazardous waste, we understand sometimes tribal members misunderstand it as a normal collection event. So they'll bring normal solid waste and normal waste that they accumulate at home. So we want to have a 40-yard bin in case there is non-hazardous waste that we can dispose of. We just throw it in the bin, similar to what you saw here with their presentation. We open up the bins, we allow tribal members to dump their normal solid waste in there, and together with leveraging different grant funding such as GAP, we're able to haul away solid waste as well.
And your residential bins?
What was that?
The home trash can?
Oh, the home, they're regular dumpsters.
Right,
They're
what's the size?
I'm trying to think what they are. So we have like the generic dumpsters. I think they're less than 20 yards, I believe, of regular dumpster bins. So we do have a solid waste management program where we do utilize CR&R, and they come weekly to dispose of just the household dumpster bins at residential locations. My apologies for misinterpreting your question.
That's okay. Thank you.
Any more questions out there, folks? Yeah, please.
Yay. And actually the question is for maybe both of our presenters, because I was hearing you mention large amount, like I think I heard you say 6 truckloads of waste coming from one person, or maybe even more than that. So we have an issue at La Jolla of people bringing what appears to be more waste than what that person could reasonably generate. And we're concerned that perhaps people are running a kind of a cleanup business. And I think you were talking about appliances, actually, weren't you? And huge amounts of appliances coming from one person. I think that's what you had said. So I was kind of curious how you or anybody in the room have managed those types of problems.
You guys.
I mean, we had that issue with appliances. And instead of just calling that individual out on it, what we went ahead is we just went and capped it. We said 3 appliances, this is what we're gonna do. And then of course at our annual cleanup day, you can bring more than 3 and we won't count that as your 3 for the year, but it seemed like that individual wasn't going to move all of those up there or whatnot, and it just slowly stopped. But we have such a good relationship with our membership. We kind of know, when this person's bringing in 4 truckloads of trash, we kind of know, oh, it's so-and-so, and they do have a cleanup plan in place or things like that. So we've never really ran into that problem per se, except with appliances. And once we put a cap on that saying, hey, you bring it to us, after the 3rd one, you're paying for it, it stopped. So that's kind of what we did with that.
Yeah, similar to what she said. We don't deal with it too often, but when we do find, abnormal amount of waste coming from a specific tribal member, we'll just speak to them. Hey, how is this waste being accumulated? We try not to step over boundaries and implement anything that we don't know yet. So we just kind of try to address it in a small manner. Let them know, hey, this is a abnormal amount of waste. Let's consider spreading it out maybe through our different quarterly collection events that we do, so that way it's not just a one-time bulk waste. Usually we assume that they're as truthful as they can be with us, so we kind of just try not to stir any pots or anything and just kind of go with the flow. And of course, if we have the funding, we do go forward with disposing of the waste for them.
And then what we kind of, at that point, we would offer like a parcel cleanup plan where we ask, hey, can we come to your house? Hey, can we see what you got? Hey, this goes here, this can go here. And we like kind of line everything out for them. And then we can kind of see what's going on too.
If you don't see 40 appliances there, the next time they bring over 40, you know it's not from their home.
Yeah, or if they are doing something like that, they kind of just back off at that point. So, but if they're not and they really need help, then we know and we can focus on, diverting their waste streams they have.
Samantha, do you have a template of your cleanup plan?
Do I have a template? Yeah, I don't have it with me either, but we can exchange information and I'll be more than happy to work with you for your proposal or your work plan. Yes.
We have a attendant at our transfer station, and it's open 2 days a week. And the tribal members need to produce their card,
Okay.
and it's a photo ID.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to give it out to other people. In the cases where we have elders, we do have a separate list of allowed individuals, but it is limited to tribal members.
Okay.
And so the attendant can sort of see if the same person is bringing in an inordinate amount of the same goods over and over again. The other thing is we're going to be implementing a check-in system. And so we're going to be putting that on tablets.
Okay.
Where we notate what people are bringing in broad senses. It helps us do the cradle to grave tracking.
Yeah.
It will also kind of make it obvious who's coming a lot and bringing a lot of stuff. One of the issues that we have had in the past is that tribal members may be making deals with friends to dispose of their waste. And so this is one of the ways that we tried to curb that, is by saying that the tribal member had to be present, or they had to have a representative on that list. And so that has been curbed to a great degree, but we still see a lot of tires.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it's always a learning curve, when dealing with solid waste programs, especially implementing a new transfer station. So I'm sure I'll be having similar issues. I'd love for us to connect afterwards and just learn more about different tribal transfer stations.
Sure.
We're definitely interested in that as well. Thank you for that comment and question. Does anyone else have any questions or comments at this time? No. Okay. Well, with that being said, thank you again for your time. Give a shout out to Paula and the EPA for hosting this event. It's always a pleasure talking trash with my colleagues. Thank you.